Hey guys, my name's Mascis, aka Lucas, and this is my Masterclass. Today we're going over a game that I actually played at Locals. This was for the final round of Locals. This was a game 3, and if I won, I would have went undefeated, and if my opponent wins, he would have beaten me, and actually had a draw, so he technically would have been undefeated, but he would have been 3-0-1, where I would have been 4-0. And I want to go over this game in particular because when I thought about it after the game, it really stood out to me that maybe my opponent would have won if they would have sequenced their lines a little bit better. I think that I played the best I possibly could have given what my opponent did. There might have been some debatable things that I could have done, like we'll get into it here. But as you can see, I'm actually on the Yummy strategy here at the bottom. I opened up a hand of Montgomery Parolia, Obedient Schooled, Infinite Impermanence, and Sky Striker Mobilize Engage, while my opponent is on Vanquish Soul Canine. They open a Jokul, a Dimensional Shifter, Vanquish Soul Jiao Long, Stake Your Soul, and Dr. Madlove. So pretty good hand for him, but pretty good hand for me. I think I have two starters, two of the best starters in my deck, 3 hand traps. That's really good. But they opened up Shifter, which is essentially like a god card versus my strategy. I need the graveyard in order to recur all of my resources back, where this card banishes all my resources. Shifter is a little double-edged sword, though, in this matchup, because Vanquish Soul does like to use its graveyard to add back its own resources as well. Not to the same extent that Yummy does, but Shifter does make your lines a little bit awkward. It turns off stuff like Rock of the Vanquisher, which is a really stellar card for Vanquish Soul, as well as Lantern, for example, on the K9 side, so they can get back a level 5 resource and then make another Frank 5 XYZ. So I think that looking at this hand, I don't think that my opponent valued his cards in the proper order. He saw that he had the Dimension Shifter, and maybe he thought that this Dimension Shifter was going to be enough to carry him into the game, and that he didn't really need to do that much, just as long as this Dimension Shifter resolved and it ride, that he'd win this game. To me, I don't really love that thinking. I think I want to be able to just like do my strategy, and then on like the cherry on top is that I have Shifter on top of like resolving as much as possible, right? I think that he could have played a little bit differently than what he did here. So to start, he goes with Stake Your Soul. Now, I think Stake Your Soul, and he does reveal the Jiao here. I think Stake Your Soul is one of the best cards in the deck. This is a Game 3 scenario, so it's possible that he wanted to make this card live before he put any other cards in the graveyard. That way he could use Dimension Shifter and then, be under Shifter the entire line. This also baits like an Ash Blossom. It could bait a Fuwalos. I think that I want to hold this card. I want to hold this card until I see what my opponent is doing. I have 2 cards already in my hand that could bait Ash Blossom, and I really want this card to resolve, because if I hold Jiaolong or I get to a scenario where I can get an Earth in my hand, I'm going to be able to recycle the Jiaolong anyway, and then I'll be able to like get to my Holy Sue and play from there. Something that, because he has all the attributes, basically he doesn't have Earth here, but he could get to Earth if he goes summon out Jokul with the Jiaolong, and then make Rock add back Jiaolong, but also use Jokul to search for a Zuna. He actually kept the Zuna in this matchup. He did see that I was on Effect Veiler in game 1, so maybe that means that, like, okay, if my opponent is on these hand traps, like the hand trap version of Yummy, then you might want to keep an Azuna, because if I do hand trap them at all, then now the Azuna is live, and that's just an extra rank 5 on the board, or it gets me to my first rank 5 on the board. It's also an attribute, so having an Earth that's on theme for the Vanquish Soul strategy is really good. Personally, I don't think Azuna is very good in the Yummy matchup, even in the hand trap version. Like if you see that they are playing the hand trap version, like they have like Effect Failures and Ghost Ogres and other stuff, I think there might just not have been anything for him to side out in this scenario, but I think Azuna is still pretty weak, and the K9 cards are still pretty weak into the Yummy cards to begin with. I think he should have recognized that and knew that his Vanquish Soul stuff needed to resolve, but what he decides to do instead is use his Vanquish Soul first and then follow up with his Canine as like the definite interrupts that he has, instead of trying to use Canine to establish a little bit of a board presence and then go for the Vanquish Soul stuff. Because there might have been a scenario where I don't want Joku to resolve and I'd use Imperm on it. I don't know if I personally would have done that. I don't know. I didn't really go through the entire line that I have in my head for him, but it might not have worked out based on the non-engine that I did have. But if he decided to start with Jokel summoning out Jiaolong instead of doing that, instead of doing what he's doing here, he could have possibly went for a line where you use Jokel to search for Azuna and then use Stake Your Soul to show Azuna. Then you can chain your shifter. You probably, what you do even before this is you go Rock of the Vanquisher on the Jiaolong so that you add the Jiaolong back, because you make Rock of the Vanquisher with the Jiaolong that you summon from Jokel, add it back, because you're going to be able to resummon it through one of your Vanquishal names anyway. Plus, you're going to be able to, now you're searching Azuna with your Jokel, so now you have Earth, you have all the attributes that you want. So then you can use your Stake Your Soul, and I would probably search for Holy Sue in this case, because the worst case scenario is that if I Ash this, then whatever, you still are able to play because you have your Dr. Madlove. But if I Imperm it, you're still going to be able to add Holy Sue back to the hand. And having Holy Sue in the hand with a Fire Dark means that you're going to be able to play on your opponent's turn no matter what. And you're going to be able to play on your opponent's turn under Shifter, which is really strong. So I think I would have tried to go for that line instead. But instead, my opponent decides to go for Stake Your Soul. He's going to chain Dimension Shifter to that after revealing the Jiaolong. This will get Vanquish Soul Raisin. Then he'll activate the Raisin effect. I will chain the Infinite Impermanence. This is just an easy Imperm here. I think that there's just not enough names that tag out in the deck right now. You're only playing a couple of Borgers, maybe two at most, and one Caesar at most. So there's really nothing where Imperm on Raisin is going to be like a huge punish. It's basically the same as a Malice, and it's basically a 50-50. So I will always try to take that. Having this card resolve is really bad for me. So I definitely am going to Imperm this. I get away with it. He normal summons the Madlove, so now the normal summon is committed. I'm going to Imperm that as well, because this is a start. He could start with that and get the Vanquish Soul start and then add his guy that way. And getting the Vanquish Soul start as well means that my Obedience Schooled is terrible in this spot, because if I Obedience Schooled, he's just going to be able to probably have enough attributes. Like if he ever gets to the Earth, like if he just has that there, he could even go on like not even get to Holy Sue, or keep the Holy Sue in the hand if he gets to the start, set the trap, and then just say go at this, and I probably would have just lost at that. But I need the Imperm to resolve so that he doesn't get to the start. I don't get punished by him having it anyway, so just getting it out of or trying to cut him off of it here. That resolves. Now he uses Jokel, shows me the Jiaolong that I already knew was in his hand. So this could only be something like, I knew all of the hand at this point except for the Jokel. So anything that he could have possibly done, plus now I know that he can't like rock me. The only other strat that he could have did was go like make Baguska here if this wasn't anything, or he could have made like SP. But I think like he's losing in that spot if he does do any of those lines. So he tries to play a little bit of K9 here. If I don't chain this Perulia, he doesn't get to set off of Ripper, but I decide that I'm going to chain the Perulia anyway. The reason being is that I know that this Jokel here is just going to add a probably a Lantern, and then I was thinking that the Ripper was going to add follow-up, and then he could set the thing that pops. But I have two pushes, and what he is representing to me is only one interrupt, right? He's only ever going to represent one interrupt if he does this this way, because he's not going to have like enough cards in hand to like play afterwards, right? And I'm not thinking that he actually kept in the Earth. but he does keep in the earth, so it is important there. But all I need to do is just like get him to not summon more from the hand, and I also kind of want to cycle my card because this Perulia isn't really like I have two cards here that represent two pushes, but I know that he's going to get one from the Ripper and then one from the what's called uh, the Mad Love here, because also the Ripper. What the Ripper can do is the Ripper can search for I think he can search for any card, so he could just search for the quick play spell that way, which would again only really be one interrupt, but he could also just like I don't know, he could just play like I activate one thing and then he uses the interrupt on that thing immediately and pop my guy. It probably was debatable if I should have Peruliated in the first place. Maybe I should have Peruliated earlier, but then I still get myself in this situation that I get myself into. Either way, I decide to use the Perulia here just to cycle it, and he gets his guys out. I get to draw a card. I drew Cupsy, which is a really good draw because now I have 3 pushes into his 2 interrupts. So he gets to get to Azuna. Obviously, he's not going to go for Azuna here, even though I activated it, because he is under Shifter, so Azuna wouldn't really do anything. He has to make Ripper. Ripper, he detaches. He gets the Lantern here. I think I would get Jokul in this spot just because Jokul can summon out Azuna, and then I definitely have a play for next turn. And then he sets the Force Release, and then he ends the turn here. And this, because it's Stake Your Soul, bounces the Raisin back to hand. So he has all the attributes in hand, which means that the Dr. Madlove is live, and he has follow-up for the next turn in the Vanquish Soul Raisin. So his interrupts here are the Dr. Madlove that's going to be able to bounce a monster, and he's also going to be able to Force Release to rank up into Ripper, or rank up into the Werewolf, and then the Force Release will pop a card on my board. So I draw for turn. I draw Ash Blossom for turn. And I sequence this in the only way that I can sequence this, which is going for Hornet Drones first. And on the Hornet Drones, he opts to use the Dr. Madlove. Now, I don't think this is correct, mainly because he has 2 forms of interruption. He needs to get rid of my stuff that is actually going to be a threat. And what that means is that he needs to get rid of the Synchros. Because what the Synchros are going to do is the Synchros are going to actually be able to run over these monsters here. Because if I ever get to like Minion, I'm just going to be able to like play through here. But also keeping stuff on board for me is really is actually pretty good because I'm under Shifter, so my recursion is really bad. And I showed you initially that I'm starting with Disguise Striker cards instead of a Yummy card or with Obedience School. I know that if I ever activate Obedience Schooled or a Yummy card to search, that all of these cards are going to resolve because I know the entire hand. I'm not going to play into anything. Like, I drew an Ash Blossom turn. There's nothing really I can play into that's going to trigger the Azuna anyway, but I know the entire hand, so I know what I'm fighting against. I think that him keeping, like, he should have probably kept a monster on board, or like, and also I make the token here. The token can't really get to Kagari. Like, I can make a guy, but if I get to Kagari, it doesn't bring back anything because I don't have any cards in my graveyard. So there's not much that this is going to be able to do unless I go like a normal summon a guy, then make it into Gagari anyway, and then make SP. But that is always going to lose to the bounce plus the what's it called? The kill effect anyway. So yeah, I think that he shouldn't have bounced here. So he does decide to bounce. I normal summon my Cupsy. Cupsy activates here. And then in response, because I've used my normal summon now, he uses Force Release, which will rank up into the Werewolf and will pop my Cupsy. But I still get the search, and I thought about this search for a little bit on like what would be the best thing to search here. I could get another name, but I have the Obedience School that I know is definitely resolving now. Um, and I'm trying to figure out how am I going to out this werewolf, because I can't summon anything besides Beast now because I'm going to lock myself with Obedience School, so I can't summon Typhon because it's a fiend. So I'm not going to be able to Typhon bounce this and like keep a Typhon on the board and set up a board that way. So I have to figure out how am I going to pop this, because that's the only way that I'm going to be able to get rid of it. And I can target it, and this will cut him off some resources because all these cards will be banished since he's under Shifter. So I figure out that I can search a Croaky. I keep a Croaky in versus matchup. I think it's like decent enough. I like a Croaky. I really think that at first I undervalued how good this card is with clearing up boards. And in this scenario, when I know I'm not going to kill, what I need to do is I know every card in the hand, and I know what sequence that I need to do in order to play against his heads up cards. So I'm only ever playing against an unknown card, which is the top of his deck. And that's going to make or break the game for him anyway. So I just do my best to beat all the cards that I know of, and try my best to beat like the last card in his hand, and set up through that. So I go set this first, because this way, if I activated Obedience School, he could have just used Werewolf to look at my hand and then get rid of the Akroki, and that wouldn't have been good. So I set the Akroki there. And then I activate the Obedience School. He doesn't chain Werewolf here. Probably just doesn't feel like he's threatened enough to chain the Werewolf. But I get 3 guys. And then I make a Snatchy. I don't use the effects. And then I Synchro for Yummy Way. A Cups of Yummy Way. I did flip a Croaky here before I did any of this. I just wanted... I just forgot to do it in the replay here that I recreated. But I did flip this up, and then I did Synchro so that this could happen. So then I go into here. I probably should have kept Cookie up in attack mode. Like, I probably should have put everything in attack mode. I'm pretty sure Obedience School doesn't summon them in defense. Yeah, you can just summon them in any position. So probably should have just kept this in attack mode, but whatever. I'm going to link this off anyway, so it's fine. And then, so Chainlink 1... Chainlink 1 Cupsy, Chainlink 2 Croaky targeting the Werewolf, and then he just changed the Werewolf because it's the only opportunity that he has now. He sees the Ash, banish the Ash at the end of the turn. Now the Werewolf is gone. I search for Lollipo and Cookie because I haven't summoned Cookie yet, and I actually sided out the 3rd Lollipo, so this is the last Lollipo in my deck. But I discard it because I want to summon the Cookie here. The Cookie effect will make this 200. And then I go over for Snatchy. And then I just battle over. So this is 200. This is going to eat it for 400. And then this is going to eat for 1,000. And then that's my turn. That's all I can realistically do. The Snatchy here represents a Book of Moon plus a... plus what's it called? Plus a pop, because, well, further down the line it's going to represent a pop because I'm going to be able to go ahead and Book a Moon and just like get him there, right? Like, I'm just Book a Moon it, and then like this will be good, and then I can use later on the Synchro to tag out to get back to another Synchro, and then that will be able to use a Croaky to pop, and then this is also a pop. So I know that there are 3 cards in his hand. One of them is offline because it's a Lantern. The other one is Raisin, and I have, I think I have like 3 interrupts exactly, right? But I also have the Ash Blossom, which is going to deal with the Raisin anyway. So I get the Ash back here at the end of the turn. He draws a Jokul. He goes normal summon Raisin, activates the effect of search. I'm forced to Ash Blossom. He then uses Azuna on a new chain. I chain Snatchy. So that'll summon out the Cookie Way. Azuna comes out. He activates Azuna. I use Cookie Way to set both of his monsters. They get set. This comes out. He activates Lupus. I decide to activate Cupsy Way because I want to resummon Cupsy Way later this turn. Summon out Cookie, summon out Snatchy. He gets Lupus here, and then I use Cookie on Lupus. This is going to banish it because I know that there's a Lantern in the hand, so he's not going to be... He can't normal summon any of these. He already normal summoned the Raisin anyway, but he doesn't even have the option to... He never had the option to normal summon this because I just didn't have 2 monsters in my hand. So effectively, I don't know that this is a Jokel, but effectively, I've dealt with this entire board because this was never an interrupt since he doesn't have a fire. He would have had the hard draw on the fire right there. But the Ash Blossom dealt with that, and then I still have a Croaky Pop if I need it, which is really good. He could chain Lupus here and then make a Typhon now. That way, he will save the Lupus, first off. But I think he wanted to try to get like the Jokel to stick, so he decided not to do that. I don't overplace anyway because I just want to keep this a Croaky Pop. But yeah, he goes for the Jokel that he top decked. Shows me the Lantern that I know. He goes and gets these guys out, and then on summon, before he can do anything, I use Snatchy, and I Synchro for the Cupsy Way again, and then Chainlink 1, Cupsy Way, Chainlink 2, a Croaky. That's going to deal with the Jokel. And this is going to search me a Cookie and a Cupsy, and I'm going to discard the Cookie so that the Cupsy is follow-up. He makes the Typhon here, goes to battle, attacks over my attack position monster, because I already tagged out with this, so I can't tag out anyway. Now, he doesn't know this, but again, I only have 2 Lollipops in my deck. I sided one of them out. Both of my Cupsies are gone. There's a Cookie that's banished. I have 2 Cookies in the grave. And I have a Cupsy in my hand that he knows that I just searched. So the only thing that he thinks is that there is a Lollipo left in deck. So if he does use Typhon to bounce this, he's scared that the Croaky will trigger and that my Lollipo will summon itself out. And then I can just still play the game on his turn anyway. But that never matters because like if he does that, then it still doesn't matter because I'm just going to be able to normal summon this Cupsy and just play the game on his turn anyway, or on my turn anyway, because he just doesn't have any interrupts left. Because I still have a Snatchy left. I only used 2 Snatchies on my previous turn. So instead, what he elects to do is he's like, well, I have board presence. This is 16 defense. This is 29 attack. I mean, they're pretty big. Just make him get over it. So he goes and main phase 2. And he uses the Typhon to actually bounce his own Raisin. Which I do like this play because this means that he definitely has follow-up for the next turn, and I have to kill him this turn. But 1 Yummy is enough to do it. Like, it's just enough most of the time to actually do it. And I'm just going to do it here, especially because he actually left me the Cupsy Way. It comes in handy because I'm going to be able to do like a cool little play that this deck just gets to do for fun. So I draw for turn. I draw another Obedience School. I normal summon the Cupsy. It doesn't really matter. I can special this, but like make him think that maybe if I recycle it later on that I can special it later. Get the surprise. And then I make a Snatchy. The Snatchy lets me get back a minion. I use a minion to get back a Cookie. Don't use the Cookie effect. I then Synchro for Starham. Starham lets me get back the Cookie, and then the Cookie is going to be able to pop the Typhon by discarding. I have to discard a card for the Starham, but then the Cookie can trigger. This is going to pop the Typhon because the Starham is a Synchro, and it brought back Cookie, so that's going to be able to do that. Then I use Surprise to bring back another, and then I use these 2 to make Lollipo Way, and then this will bring back the Cookie Way and regular Cookie. So go to battle here. All these guys are gaining 25 except for the Starham. So this goes up to 41, this is 37, this is 35, and this is 35 because I have 5 Light Beasts on the board, and then this is just enough to kill them. So attack, 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 attack. And that is a game there that I got shifted, and I still won. I played all my cards, I feel, as correct as possible. And I just think that my opponent did not sequence his cards very well. And despite having a one of card that obliterates my strategy, I was able to win because I sequenced my cards correctly and he sequenced his cards incorrectly. Um, and that's just sometimes that's just a lot of this format. I think is that um, the better player on that in those scenarios is going to win based off of how they sequence their cards. There's the format is not very forgiving in this sense, and there was even something that I probably could have did better. Like I probably didn't need to use my Perulia in, in this spot, but I felt like it was still pretty good because I was going to try to draw in some more pushes into the pushes that I knew that he was going to represent. At least that was my thought process behind it. But at the end of the day, we still got there through Shifter. And yeah, I mean, I hope that this was informative, and I hope that you if you enjoyed it, that you want me to do more of these replay analysis later. Like I said, I think that this game was totally winnable for my opponent if they sequenced their cards better and found a different first turn setup line than the one that they decided to commit to. Uh, I'm not exactly sure what that line would have been. I think like basically on my hand on how things would have sequenced out, there might have been a world where they still lose the game. But I think that undervaluing the Vanquish Show cards in this and not using the K9 cards to the fullest extent on trying to like actually bait interaction or set up stuff was a huge mistake by my opponent, and they just felt like to me that they just didn't use their cards as efficiently as they could have. So yeah, like I said, if you do enjoy this content, please let me know, and maybe I'll make more of it hopefully soon. So thanks for watching.